Hi, and welcome to Uncensored Hot Femme, the bold as fuck podcast with me, Anna Olsen. And I am a mentor who help good girls go bad being a motherfucking queen in sex and love. And this is episode 11. Let's celebrate. I often don't acknowledge things myself, and I am still practicing to celebrate myself enough. And my ex reminded me yesterday, like, Anna, you said you were going to release 10 episodes, and now you've done that, and all the amazing guests you've had on, and like, yeah, he just helped me reflect that. And so I just wanted to start to say, like, we want to be grounded in ourselves. We want to be able to hold our own ground, but all people need each other. We need each other. And on the days where it feels like fumbly and you feel insecure and someone else can come in without fixing, just mirror back to you your greatness and your goodness and just, be there for you. It's so precious. And I believe that we so sincerely want this. We all want this. Like, even the most independent lone wolfers want this. Maybe we just don't want it always in the same way, but I do believe that we all want it. And when we don't, or like when we go away from this into hyper independence, it's because we're fearing intimacy, we are fearing closeness, and we're fearing vulnerability. And I also do believe that we sometimes really don't grasp what vulnerability is. So I've had some reflections going on. I always reflect, but like I had to take a big break and pause. So many good things are happening, and I'm just stabilizing my nervous system in it. And maybe you can recognize this in yourself, but I really could sense that I was operating half on half in my shadows, and this podcast had become such a mirror for myself. Like I came in here like this is not like or it felt like that, like it was truly my inner rebel who started this podcast, and I thank her for it. And she is so connected to my inner teenager and so much rage. And this is some potent fuel, but we can fall over where it becomes superior and like kind of assholey and yeah, yeah, everything is kind of not healthy when we fall too far to the one end of the pendulum. You know, this pendulum I always talk about. And I had to like take an honest look at myself, and I didn't really come anywhere with my reflections. And so many things came up. I have said before on this podcast that I healed so much resentment for the masculine last year, and I've done so much inner healing with my inner masculine, but I could sense that I was operating from my shadows, and it just didn't feel good. And and like I was avoiding truly going deeper. I couldn't see it, and I tried to be in these reflections that just became such a we can get lost in our own head, and letting go and surrendering and knowing also sometimes that the answers will come when we are ready for it, when we let go. And that's why healing is non-linear. That's why growth is so non-linear. And that's why I'm calling this episode Bitch Be Humble, because I heard this by Kendrick Lamar maybe 1.5 weeks ago. And then I have kind of been on the tipping point into where I feel like I've integrated the pieces now. And for sure there will come up more. But new resentment bubble up. And I was dating a man last year that I really liked, and I've been reflecting a lot on that, like on him, on myself, both good and bad. And actually, how I started this podcast from this, watch me energy. You think you're more than me? Watch me. Like the inner competitor and the superior, like, fuck you. But of course, like when you land in your heart and can see, like, you can only be with yourself, you can only change yourself, and like everything just plays out how it's meant to play out. That there's just such a yeah, I'm exhaling. There's just such an exhale. Oh, I can't get another word for it, but like exhale in that, and to slow down and become humble, and especially bitch be humble. Like listen to the song, bitch be humble, sit down, and I was like, shut up. And that's because we as good girls, we are kind of being the people pleaser and the doormat. And we swing over to the other side and become maybe too bitchy sometimes. Or when we get triggered, we lash out. And I always try to hold my ground in this, but we are only humans. You are only human. And when we are guarded, um, it just it just becomes this, especially if two people are guarded, feeding into each other's insecurities, going into the power struggle. It becomes more of a game of, yeah, and I say a game, becomes more of a game where we try to be aware, hyper vigilant from a place of when is the other shoe going to drop? How can I observe you to see that you are going to fuck me over? And especially after Joshua was here and I like re-listened to the episode and really listened to myself. What am I saying on this podcast? And yeah, this mirror, everything, just allowing it to be a mirror without judgment. And this can be hard because we can feel guilty, we can feel shameful. That's why bitch be humble, because other people are on their journey just like you are. And we can be disappointed and we can wish that we would have expressed ourselves differently or that others would have done this or that. But it all plays out how it's supposed to be. And sometimes two people may be each other's kryptonite, like two people who can't fully express, waiting for the other to take a step forward. When we do express, we feel uncomfortable and it comes out weird, and the other person doesn't receive it well. And I call this a snowball effect, and it just becomes um, not nice. So resentment towards some men from my recent years, which you can see the healing journey of, like, yeah, I heal resentment, new resentment bubble up, and it was more of the men that I've had in my life the past years, and yeah, we are no better, no worse. And I know you probably also know this, and still we lose ourselves, become unaware and unconscious, and we are humans. And also, if we have people in our life that can reflect back things to us, if you don't have a podcast, maybe record yourself on a voice note, or like if you like journaling. I'm not that fond myself of journaling, but like, how can you create that mirror for yourself? Because you can only change yourself and you can learn. Like, if you can apologize, do that. But apologies without change behavior doesn't mean anything. And sometimes it's better to reflect and see, how can I change my behavior from now on? What would have been a better response? What's the opposite? I love the opposite. If you're over here, if you are leaning in too much, maybe the opposite is for you to learn to lean back more. Like the power of the opposites. That's why good girl gone bad, doormat bitch. And then eventually, if we keep going, if we never give up, and we are kind to ourselves and others, we will come and sway in the middle. And like attracts like. And you get to know yourself so much better. And yeah, this is where we don't villainize others. Like you heard Joshua talk about the villain, and this is the savior, victim, villain, the drama triangle. And it's so easy to villainize others to avoid our own shame and guilt. And I do this too. And it was more of me like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to step in consciously to my inner villain. Like I'm not going to be the victim. I'm actually going to be the villain. I'm going to be the bitch. I'm going to be the bad girl because that's the opposite. And then that like start to feel not good either. So, yeah. And this is also connected to our nervous system regulation because we need to pause. And I can be really reactive still. I don't even notice it. And then someone comes at me and like, I'm like lashing out or shutting down, not shutting down that much, but like putting up the wall. So, yeah. This is where did it actually start? Where did the first snowflake in the snowball start? Without like, I don't want you to make it a game of if I would have done differently, he would have stayed. If this would have happened, I wouldn't have said goodbye. Like, yeah, you know, I love relationships. So this is my passion. And yeah. It feels so much better because when I'm in my love, I can feel love for every man I've ever had in my life. And resentment is like poison to our body. But on the other hand, we don't want to make ourselves wrong. It's like we always are, even within ourselves in this power struggle, right, wrong, right, wrong, right, wrong, black, white, black, white, black, white. And the more flexible you can become, the more of your feminine archetypes you can embody, the more of your inner masculine and feminine. You see, polarity holds so many things. How can you come into balance and find your sweet spot and know what you want and what you like so you can speak in a way that is inspirational, even if you set a standard or a boundary, which I am getting so much better at. And it creates safety. I love when people, especially men, set boundaries with me so I know where I have them. But the more loving we can express ourselves, the better, of course, it's better received. But I do my best, and I would like to give this as an advice to you too. I can take an example. So this man I'm talking about told me that I was passive. Why was I passive? Because I've always been the chaser. So I've like flipped over to being distant, aloof, and those kind of things. But I was like, okay, is this true? Even a man I dated a year ago was like talking about things and like, shit, this man was right, and I didn't listen. But probably I wasn't ready to receive it either. So receiving is so much more than masculine giving the feminine or receiving gifts or money or like it's receiving words. It's your receptivity in everything. And that's how present you can be in your body, and the more aware you become and the more embodied you become. So even if someone gives you bad delivery, like my ex sometimes tells me things and I'm like not even responding sometimes. Maybe sometimes I'm even like, oh my God, what is he saying? I don't do that, but I do it in here, like, or, but then I come home to myself and I'm like, what is he actually telling me? What is his needs if he can't express them? Or like, is it true? Is this true about me? Not only that he needs this, is this true about how I show up in life? And do I want to be better, show up better? I don't even have to discuss, like, I would say so much of what you talk to people is not vulnerability, it's just talking about concepts. And this is amazing too, it's so interesting, but it's not vulnerability. Like explaining how you are is not even a core truth because you are ever changing. Speaking on your fears is a delicate matter because it can create fear in others. How can you do that in an empowering way? And instead of speaking on your fears, how can you share your desires instead? So you see, there's such a skill set in, first of all, knowing yourself and how to communicate to others. So this is what I wanted to speak on today. And then the pause. And I'm becoming better and better at pausing. And I have also, of course, created a life where I have more space, both money-wise, time-wise, for myself. And I mean, if someone who was so depressed, used to live on social welfare, had fucked up relationships, that even if I reflect on them, like, oh my God, one of my men started therapy for me. They have provided so much for me. I didn't know it because I wasn't conscious of it. That's what they mean by saying like that things are an illusion. Because everything is always present around you. You just don't see it because in your own inner world, you are not attuned to this. You can't see it. It's an illusion for you. That's why someone else haven't seems like they're living in a whole other world because they are attuned, aware, receptive to other things and feel worthy and deserving of other things. So you see, that's not a woo-woo thing to say. So, do you want to be right or do you want to be in love? And there's absolutely a delicate matter in this because swinging over to the good girl, being the doormat, people pleaser, swinging over here, being guarded, fighter, defensive, like, yeah. So if this is something you feel the desire for, may it be sex, which is super vulnerable, or love, or the fullness of your eros, then I have a new masterclass that you can take, The Secret Love Affair, that is available to purchase as a replay. Or if you feel the calling for one-on-one mentorship, I'm here for you. And if you want to let me know you're here. Please say hi in the comments. Please share this podcast. That would mean the world to me. And if you have any questions or anything you would love for me to bring up, like I am super responsive. So this has been such a training for me to sit and talk. People being like, oh my God, how can you say you're bad at talking? You talk all the time. But sitting like this and talking has been so deeply uncomfortable for me because I'm a super responsive person. I meet someone, I respond. I am sacral authority and very responsive. So, yeah, this was, yeah, I'm feeling so relaxed and I am so happy to be here to speak on this with you today. And yeah, bitch, be humble, sit down, shut up. There's a time to speak, there's a time to be silent. Yes. So much love. See you. Yeah, I have an amazing episode next week with the next man in my man series. So stay tuned.